You know what, you're right. The truth is our kids should be able to go to school and not have to worry about whether or not they're going to get killed. Our teachers should be able to go to work and not have to think about carrying a gun. You know what else is true? Should is a stupid word that will get you killed in the real world. Believe it or not, this video is not a response to the shooting that happened in Nashville this week. We've been talking about it on Instagram, response to mass shooters to active shooter events. We've gone through and defined what an active shooter event is and how it's different from a mass shooting. And this week we're talking about some of the proposed solutions and what the data says about those proposed solutions.
And ban these weapons.
Banning these magazine clips.
Ban large capacity ammunition.
Pistols are different. You have to pull the trigger each time. An assault weapon, you basically hold it, goes blah, blah, blah.
High capacity magazines, assault weapons, gun-free zones. They'll talk about anything but a solution that actually works. We're going to use shooting data from Columbine until recently and break down how those solutions would have affected the outcomes in each of those mass shooting events. First one we're going to talk about is the high capacity magazine myth.
It's time to act and to demonstrate that you give a damn about our children. Tom is right.
Among the provisions in the bill, a ban on any magazine with more than 10 rounds.
So the assumption is that I'm able to achieve a higher rate of fire because I have a higher magazine capacity. Lower the magazine capacity, lower the rate of fire, lower the number of casualties. So if a lowered magazine capacity lowers my rate of fire, then that begs two questions. One, exactly how many rounds can we fire per minute with a given magazine capacity? And two, what are the actual rates of fire in a given mass shooting attained by these shooters? And do those two numbers add up? So we're going to be pretty conservative with the numbers. We're going to assume a rate of fire of 2 rounds per second and a reload time of 3 seconds. So with a 30 round magazine, I would be able to fire 100 rounds per minute with 3.3 reloads. With a 10 round magazine, my rate of fire drops to 75 rounds per minute, 7.5 reloads. With a 5 round magazine, my rate of fire drops to 55 rounds per minute with 11 reloads in that minute. So let's consider the Sandy Hook shooting. In the months following Sandy Hook, the governor of Connecticut took swift legal action, lowering the legal magazine capacity from 30 rounds to 10 rounds, which according to our math lowers your potential rate of fire from 100 rounds per minute to 75 rounds per minute. So that begs the question, what was the shooter's actual rate of fire in the Sandy Hook mass shooting? And if it was more than 75 rounds per minute, then the data holds up, and this is a good solution. According to the data, the Sandy Hook shooter fired 154 rounds in approximately 5 to 9 minutes, giving him a rate of fire of 15 to 31 rounds per minute max. 31 rounds per minute. The Sandy Hook shooter fired at a rate no faster than a 150-year-old Henry lever-action rifle. This is a lever-action rifle. Cosmetically, it looks nothing like it, but as far as the action goes, it's the same thing they used in the Civil War. Has an achievable rate of fire of about 30 rounds per minute. You would never see a firearm like this in an assault weapons ban, and because it has no detachable magazine and can only accept 9 rounds, it's perfectly within the legal limits of Connecticut or any other state for that matter. If the assumption is that lowering magazine capacity lowers the rate of fire to a point where it saves lives, the data doesn't track. So if it's not magazine capacity, what about an assault weapons ban? Would banning the AR-15 platform rifle effectively save lives? Well, first let's look at how often a mass shooter uses an AR-15. And second, let's look at how effective that is versus other weapons platforms. Of the 50 or so legally defined mass shootings that have occurred since Columbine, only 10 were committed with an AR-15 rifle. You'll often hear them talk about the supposed high power of an AR-15 rifle in inflicting damage and trauma on the human body. But here are the facts. While politicians were in Washington, D.C. trying to ban rifles that shoot this, a gunman at Virginia Tech was able to take 32 lives using this, fired from a pistol that would never be included in an assault weapons ban coming from 10-round magazines that would be perfectly within a legal limit. So does it track with the data? What about gun-free zones? You can say what you want about gun-free zones, but the fact of the matter is 85% of victims killed in mass shootings have been murdered in gun-free zones since Columbine. The Aurora shooter had identified 7 theaters as a possible target. The one that he chose was not the one closest to his apartment. In fact, there was one within walking distance of his apartment. It just so happens that the theater he chose was the one that had posted gun-free zone signs throughout the theater. You can take that for what it's worth. But as far as I'm concerned, your gun-free zone signs are as effective as speed limit signs on the interstate. There are so many other worthless solutions that get thrown around in times like this. What about universal background checks? Well, would it make a difference if I told you that 79% of firearms used in mass shootings since Columbine have been purchased legally through an FFL? So what actually does make a difference? What lowers the body count and increases your chances of survival? What lowers the amount of time that shooter has to take life? We're going to get into that next week. But I can tell you really quick, it's up to you. Stay sharp, stay safe, train to fight, think to win.